Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome. On behalf of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Spiritual Master of Caitanya Jivan Prabhu, as well as our presiding deities, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, and Shri Shri Rameshwar Bihari. We welcome everyone here to this celebration of life of His Grace Caitanya Jivan Prabhu, Joel. Caitanya Jivan, he was known by many in many different ways. He was a father, husband, he was a friend, a brother, an uncle, mentor, teacher. So many lives he's touched. And we wanted to really take this time today for people to come together and get an opportunity to share with each other just how much impact he's had. Before we begin, I do want to say that for many people, Caitanya Jivan's passing was a bit of a surprise. And we'll talk about this throughout the morning here. Very few people actually knew of his condition. And that was by his own personal will and his design. It spoke to the nature of who he was. And he didn't want to burden anybody. In fact, he thought, oh, if they know, what are they really going to do? They'll just sit there and worry about me. And I don't want people that sit there and worry about me. So please don't feel bad about that. The reason I'm bringing that up is because please don't feel bad, because sometimes there's an element of sadness that takes over when something like that would occur. And he really didn't want that. In fact, the people that did know about his condition, he basically swore to secrecy that they wouldn't tell anybody. So please don't feel bad about that. In fact, today is a day in which we want to obviously reflect. There's the sadness that's there. That's very natural. Missing him, realizing that he's not going to be there. When we pick up the phone or go into the yoga class or come to Rath Yatra or come to the temple or however we would know him. But he really wanted us to rejoice in his passing. His life was dedicated, the goal of his life was dedicated to reuniting with Krishna. And everything he did throughout his life and throughout his final days was to achieve that goal. So for the first, next couple of minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to do some kirtan, some singing. And then what we will do after that is we'll invite different people up to speak about Caitanya Jivan. We have some offerings that were sent in from family members and friends from afar. So we'll read those as well. For those that couldn't physically be here, this is being shown on this kind of Philadelphia YouTube channel. So it will be recorded on there, and we welcome the people that are joining us virtually online. And we can also share this with our friends and family by sharing the link to it after the program. Okay, so we'll do some kirtan, and then afterwards we will have some speaking. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. One thing I forgot to mention at the very beginning, that at the schedule for today, from now until about 11:45, we'll hear the different offerings that his friends, devotees, family have. At 11:45, we hope everybody can stay. We have a special candle light offering to Caitanya Jivan Prabhu. We'll all get a chance to say a word or two about him and light a candle in his honor and memory. And then at 12 o'clock, there'll be another kirtan and arti for the deities. The program will conclude at 12:30, and we have prasadam, lunch for everybody to take with them. So I'm going to open up. I want to invite Caitanya Jivan Prabhu's godbrother, Devi Deva Prabhu, to come forward and say a few words. And then we'll just keep it flowing from there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hello, everyone. Hare Krishna. Obviously, Joel, Caitanya Jivan, was a great soul. He dedicated his life to not his own spiritual advancement, but to the spiritual advancement of many people. It was his life and soul. Like all of us, we all struggle to some degree in our spiritual development. And Caitanya Jivan was no different. But what I noticed in my relationship with him over the last 15 or 20 years is that he was determined, despite the obstacles, despite the challenges, that he was a determined soul. He got the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, which started this movement, and he was willing to give it to whoever was willing to take it. We all have death awaiting us at some point. And I was thinking the other day when he left his body that so many people leave their bodies every day, not just in the human form, but in many life forms. And it made me more fully understand the eternality of our souls. These bodies, as Prabhu told us, are like the changing of garments. And that when the body, like a garment, becomes old and is no longer functioning, then we throw the garment out. But nobody laments about throwing out an old sweater or an old pair of socks. And so similarly, we should lament on the material platform of Chaitanya's leaving his body. That we should understand and reflect that our purpose in life is to spiritually develop, and that we are eternal souls, and we should take comfort in that God is taking care of us. We're all children of God, and just like a parent, for those of you who have been a parent, you have that natural affinity to take care of your children. So similarly, God also has that affinity to take care of each and every one of us. But this human form of life is very valuable. It's rare compared to the number of insects, the number of ants, the number of birds, the number of animals, the number of fish that are on this planet. Human life is very rare, and it's a great opportunity to develop our spiritual advancement and our reconnection with God. So that's what I'm taking from Chaitanya's passing. I know that he wouldn't want us to lament. And I thank you all very much for coming.
To invite Vamanadeva Prabhu to come and say a few words. He'll also read an offering from Balabhaja Prabhu, our temple president, who is unable to be here with us, but is with us online.
Hare Krishna. This is Balabhaja Prabhu, temple president.
No, microphone.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachayani Nirvishesha Srimati Pascha Nisakamani Panchakopa Trubhascha Kriya Kriyacha Titanam Vayu Vaishnava Vayu Namo. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for conditioned souls. I offer my humble obeisances and respects to my dear God brother Caitanya Jivan Prabhu. I consider myself extremely fortunate to have been blessed to have his association and guidance over the past 7 years. Over the past 7 years, as I have been connected with ISKCON Philadelphia. From the very moment that I started visiting the Philadelphia temple, he very generously shared his association with me. He always gave me a big hug as soon as we would see each other. He was such a kind and gentle devotee. Some years ago, we were on Harinam going down Broad Street, and we came upon a huge festival that was happening downtown. Chaitanya Jivan was with us that day, and he wanted to take the kirtan party right into the middle of the festival. I was very cautious about crashing a festival without permission. That day I received a very important instruction from Caitanya Jivan. That is, it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. I think I lived by that my whole life. We proceeded based on his encouragement, and we were enthusiastically received by the festival goers. I am eternally indebted to him for humbly sharing this valuable piece of preaching advice. He is my senior godbrother, but I realize in our dealings over the past few years, he demonstrated an amazing level of humility in his dealings with me in my service as temple president of ISKCON Philadelphia. He chaired the recent successful facelift project, and whenever he experienced any problems in this service, he would call me and say, "You're my temple president, and I was trained to always go to your temple president to resolve issues." I felt so embarrassed because I truly respected him as my senior godbrother, but I tried my best to respectfully share whatever little input I could based on his humble request. He was truly a humble and loving devotee, and I will miss his association, but I feel blessed that Krishna gave me his association for a few years. I pray that he has been welcomed back into the association of our dear Srila Prabhupada in the eternal service of the Lord. Your humble servant, Balabhaja Bhattacharya Das.
We can hear it here.
I'll say a couple words about Jivan. He was my friend, and I'm sorry that he left.
He died.
He always wanted to talk about Krishna. Whenever he would come over to our house, we always ask him, "Tell me something about Lord Chaitanya. Tell me something about Balaram." Krishna had a very dry sense of humor if anybody got to know him. He really was a funny guy, but you had to understand his humor. And the other thing, the man could eat. If you ever saw him sit down at the table, you should not get in between him and his plate. He could really, he loved Krishna. He loved talking about Krishna, and he loved doing service. And I'll miss his association very much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. I'm going to read a letter that was sent from Caitanya Jivan's brother, John, his younger brother, only younger brother. Had a very wonderful exchange with him over the phone. I was a little bit nervous because I never met him, but then I called him up and I wanted to talk to him about the ceremony, so I didn't know how he was going to react. And he was really just a wonderful, wonderful gentleman who really loved and looked up to his older brother. So after this, also we have some offerings that were sent in from his daughters, his niece, a few others that Mother Sangeeta will read following this. So this is from Brother John. I'd like to start off by saying thank you for loving my late brother. You may not know all of Joel's history. When he came back from California, I was 9. He was my best friend and my mentor. One Sunday morning, we ended up in the Detroit Temple. My brother found his calling. He even took our parents to the temple. Our father did not get it, as usual. We all have that experience, I think, in some areas. But it changed Joel's life forever. Over the years, he was in Japan, and in India. But we always kept in touch through our mother. I had the joy of being with him in Miami and Key West in the late 70s and early 80s, when our father died. The funeral home had a special viewing for Joel and I. He asked me how I felt. Joel always cared about you over him. I said to him that all fear is gone. I am not afraid of anything anymore. I was blessed that we talked every week over the years. Mostly he wanted me to come and get his sailboat running. Those who know Joel, Jivan, he had that special love for his boat. About 3 years ago, I got to see him in West Reading. We spent a few days together. He wanted me to try hot yoga. I lasted about 5 minutes and stood over and opened up the window. He took me to the Philly Temple, too. All of you touched his heart, and I must say, all of you I met touched mine, too. We went to do the sailboat. I looked, and I suggested that he loved the farm so much that he'd dig a giant hole there, fill it with water, put the sailboat there, and you'll have the best of both. You can live on the farm, and you can have your sailboat. My kids asked, what was your best memory of your brother? I told them, our mom sent us to the A&P for groceries. It was about a 6-block walk, one way. We got 2 big bags of groceries. He had me carry them home. As we were walking, I asked him, why do I have to carry both of them? He answered, because I am the big brother and you are the little brother. I'm so blessed to be able to say that Joel is my big brother. Again, fighting through the tears, I, Johnny, thank you for touching his heart and letting him touch yours. And special thank you to Krishna for helping my big brother find his way through this life. And to you, Jai, for making him so happy. Jai, I'm so proud to call you my sister-in-law. Proud for you. And I'm proud for you, Jivan, for being my big brother. Love and miss you so much. Love, Johnny. Hare Krishna. May I ask Mother Sangeeta, Prabhu, to come forward? Mother Sangeeta, Caitanya Jivan's god sister. She'll read a few, and maybe hopefully she will also share a few of her own memories.
My battery's running low. Do you have it on your computer?
I do. Let's see if we need to.
As long as it- Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
This first one is from his oldest daughter, Leah. To my father, I will always be thankful you were and are a part of me. Though our lives ran a course that may have been distant in the day-to-day, you always were and will continue to be a part of my heart. May my love always be with you, and may you always know peace. With much love, Leah. This next one, is for from his youngest daughter, Katrina. For the memorial from his youngest daughter, Katrina. It was truly an honor to know Caitanya Jivan as my father, teacher, and friend. I doubt I would be here today were it not for his guidance and love. He could completely change my perspective with a few words, or sometimes even a look, and he never let me get away with anything. I will miss him dearly, but find comfort in knowing that he lives on in the hearts of all the hundreds of people touched by the compassion, wisdom, and strength. He certainly lives on in my heart. I celebrate knowing he has returned to Lord Krishna, and that one day we will be reunited in Vrindavan. Till I see you again, all my love, Katrina. And this one is from Katrina's mom, Nancy. I met Joel Caitanya Jivan in the summer of 1990. We were both living in Key West at the time. I was teaching a class at a fitness studio where he was taking a martial arts class. He asked me if I liked reggae. We went out that night and danced and walked and talked till 4 in the morning. He and I could never figure out how to make a life together. Watching his accomplishments from afar, his particular genius for teaching, his ability to mentor and encourage people in difficult, even impossible situations, his devotion to his spiritual practice, his willingness to be there for me through the years, I am continually humbled by gratitude that he asked me if I liked reggae, that he, from that night on, became one of the most important people in my life. He has been exactly the father that Katrina needed. Joel Caitanya Jivan has left the world in better shape than when he arrived. He touched and healed so many lives, including, I imagine, all of you here today. His down-to-earth spirit, his compassionate soul, and his courage in facing difficulty will inspire me as long as I live. And in giving the world Katrina and her sister Leah, the physically He physically lives on as well in two kind and funny women with warrior hearts. A couple of days after I heard the news of his passing, I said to Katrina, "It's so hard to imagine that he's not out there." She said, "He still is. Yes, he is." May the power of our love surround him in his passing between lives. However he returns, he will keep making the world better. Hare Krishna, Nancy. This is from his niece, Justina. My Uncle Joel, since I met him, was the most kindest man. He taught me so much. I really don't know how to do this. My Uncle Joel taught me so much. He was kind, caring, and most of all, a good human being. I have so many memories about him. The most I think about is him introducing me to his religion. I just remember how marvelous this is. The people, how kind. He was excited when I grew my garden. Of course, I took advice from him, our last conversations. He asked about me and my kids. He checked up on me for days afterwards. He is an amazing, and then she stops and says, "It's hard for me to believe he is gone." Hare Krishna, Justina. Thank you.
Want to say anything? Next we'll have Caitanya Jivan Prabhu's godbrother, Caitanya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu ki jai. So today we have gathered here for memorial service of a great person, His Grace Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu, whose life was so exemplary. He was chairman of Philadelphia Rath Yatra Committee, and he also helped me so much for so many years to Puerto Rath Yatra also. And he was working so hard to organize the Rath Yatra for so many years. And it is his courage, that he will take the permit and he will put all the posters and he will do so many different things. And he will do these things so humbly that nobody will even know that he's doing all these things. He will take so like a humble role, neat role, that he was parking not attendant, so anybody can do that job, he was doing it. He said that I want to serve all Vaishnavas. So that was his attitude, and that attitude was so great, Also, I was so fortunate to be his physician, but he will never reveal anything, he will just say, I'm all right, like that, but he will come sometime, but he was very personal, he keep many things, he doesn't want anybody to bother with anything, so, and he was so compassionate also, and very humble. One time I forgot my parking ticket, and then I went there and I told the attendant, that I don't have a ticket, but I had it and I forgot it. And he said, no, you cannot park, but Chaitanya Prabhu saw me from far away and he ran, and he said, come. So he was really very gentleman. His behavior was so good with all the devotees. He will never say any harsh word to anybody. He will not fight with anybody. Yeah. So his humbleness actually touched everybody's heart. You see anybody, he can say, that I'm so fortunate to meet him. So he was in true sense a real Vaishnava, and he is like true emblem for Pranada Pisuli Chena, Tarodi Saishtana, Amanina, Kirtanya Sadahari. So he will respect everybody, and he will never like to be respected at all. He doesn't want any respect for himself. So that was his attitude, and we can learn so many things from him. And I heard that when he passed away, that there was photo of Radha and Krishna. Also, Prabhupada's chanting was going on, and the devotees were chanting, the kirtan was going on. So, and he was till last moment, he was in full consciousness and looking at the Lord and hearing Krishna bhajan. So, definitely he went to go to Vrindavan actually, and that's now he's serving Prabhupada there. So, we will miss him actually here in Philadelphia because he was pillar and so example for all of us. So we end here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Next, we have Bob Connolly, student of Caitanya Jivan. We're actually very happy to have Bob with us. Bob is a big part of our Rath Yatra. And then he moved away. He went out to the West Coast, down to San Diego area. He's got his Chargers shirt on. And recently he came back. This is actually the first time he's been in this temple since it's been built. So welcome home, Bob.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Yeah, this is hard. So, I knew our friend in both the Hare Krishna community as Caitanya Jivan and in the yoga studio as Joel Pier. He was the same always, no difference. I do want to tell you that there's a tremendous outpouring of grief and gratitude in the yoga community. It's amazing. Joel opened more hearts to God in whatever name you called him, your spirituality in whatever form you felt it. But he did that. He did that. His studio, I've been to many studios around the country. There's nothing like Joel's, nothing. And it's changed hands, but his spirit is still that studio. The murals of Krishna, when you walk down the stairs from the 4th floor to the 3rd floor after a hard class, a large mural of Lord Jagannath would smile at you and say, oh, you made it. So, yeah, he was special. And he could open your body too. If you were willing to work, nobody was more knowledgeable about yoga than Joel. And the last thing I'll say, he was very funny. His classes would make me. Just one example, at the end of a hard class, he would say, all right, now take 2 minutes to lay down in Savasana and relax, and then get the hell out of here. And he just had sayings like that all the time. And just one thing about, my association with him in the Hare Krishna community, just one small lesson I learned from him. As you all know, he was an incredibly hard worker, and he would be out of the Rath Yatra grounds from early in the morning to one of the last people to leave. And one of the last things you had to do was move these heavy metal barricades and get them all into one place to be picked up, and he was doing that. And that impressed me, but what really impressed me is I never heard a word out of his mouth like, hey, I'm 70 years old, why the hell am I doing this? Or not any complaint at all, just happy to be of service any way he could be. In whatever fashion he could help you. He was truly your ever well-wisher, and I and so many people, so many hearts were touched. We all miss him very much, so I'm very grateful for the chance to say a few words. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Next, we have Vijay Makaria, who was with Caitanya Jivan Prabhu down to Puerto Rico for this last Rath Yatra.
Hare Krishna. God bless the Srila Prabhupada. Right now, we are talking about memories. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Caitanya Jivan Prabhu was very humble, simple, kind-hearted devotee. We were very fortunate to have his association. He made the life best use Philadelphia devotees. And listen this, which was witnessed by the devotees. One who surrenders to Guru and Krishna is very fortunate. Bahunam janmane ante jnanam nam prapadyate. Vasudeva sevam iti su mahatma su durlabha. Bhagavad Gita 7.19. After many birth and death, the one who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all cause and all that is. Such a great soul and is very rare. Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu, one of them. There is no goodbye, Alvida. You will be always in our heart with us. May his devotional service and pure heart inspire all of us. We cherish back to Godhead.
Very nice. Remember that we're all going to miss him so much. This happens in life. There's always changes going on. But I'll tell you one thing about Jivan is he loves prasad. And we're having prasad today. The best. Also samos, which he loved also. So when we're taking the prasad, please everybody take it. And you'll remember that he loved prasad. He loved it. So he would come different times and he would always be served prasad here. We worked many years together. And we're going to miss him. Hare Krishna.
Studio, now called Hot Yoga Philadelphia. It was Joel that, and no other places, I get out of class, everyone's already gone. By the time I'm used to Boston, it seems. And I think Joel instilled that, his hospitality, with his sense of humor, which I share a couple of examples of, but I see children are present.
I'm done here. Joel, that was the greatest lesson you ever taught me in life, was the smile. And I've always kept that with me, and I thank Joel for that. Because Joel taught me to smile. When things were bad, that's when we smile the hardest. So thank you, Joel. And I hope you rest in peace with God.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Peter. Caitanya Jivan's spiritual nephews, God nephews. Caitanya, they share very similar names.
Hare Krishna. I'd like to start off by reading a couple offerings from some well-wishers of his. The first one is Roli Kare. She knew him when she used to live in Philly. We did a couple programs together at his yoga studio, Bikram Yoga. Dear Caitanya Jivan Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I hope and pray that you have reached the loving feet of your spiritual master. I still remember my university days in Philadelphia when you and Hariya Prabhu gave us the support, encouragement, and good humor to carry out our university preaching and Pandavasena events. Students and young folks would regularly meet at your studio for discussing spirituality, yoga, kirtan, and then planning more events. Your generosity did not go unnoticed. Over the years, when I have seen you from afar, I always remember a jolly, laughing, faithful servant of the Lord. I remember in 2009, you mentioned to me, our lives born built in with blessings. I see it now. Thank you for being that built-in blessing. Gratefully yours, Rolly. And just one more offering from Roman and Prabhu, who knew him from coming to this temple. Roman now moved to Bangalore, India, but he wanted to write an offering to Jivan and Prabhu. I'm extremely saddened to hear of the passing away of Jivan and Prabhu. I was blessed and grateful to have this association for several years in Philadelphia. He opened his Bikram Yoga Center and heart for all of us. The first time I entered Bikram Yoga was in 2006 or 7 for a Pandit Singh meeting, and since then I had the opportunity to do several kirtans at his studio. I started a Bhagavad Gita preaching group at Bikram Yoga on Sansom Street every other Saturday, which went on for more than a year, during this time I had the opportunity to spend time with Jivan Prabhu and get to know him. He showed me some of his collections and books at his studio and shared his times in Mayapur and the Goshala there. When Yahoo Messenger would work in my office, he would message me from his Bikram training in California or other trips he was on. Fond memories that I will cherish forever. His humility, his speech which never hurt anyone, his sensitivity for us, and his devotion are all something I will never forget. He even chanted more than 16 rounds several times. Since I returned to India, I've seen many families and friends, death in the ICU, which looked so ugra, with ventilators and instruments pierced all over their body. And I'm glad that Jivan Prabhu left his body so gracefully in Krishna consciousness. I'm in a loss of words as to where to begin and how to end this. But before I left Philly to return to India, I spoke with him and he gave me his good wishes. Recently, I've lost several people close and very dear to me, and Jivan Prabhu is one of them. I'm very pained to hear about his departure. Thank you, Shri, for giving me the association of this great soul. So, I've been Jivan Prabhu ever since he came to Philly, but my memories really serve me since, I think, mid-2000s, when we would do programs. He opened up the center wholeheartedly. Oftentimes, I would tell him we were planning on doing a program for college students and young folks there, and he would frequently cancel his own classes or move them just to accommodate our programs. Very funny, always very accommodating, very supportive. Again, later on, I was helping Dhanacharya Prabhu organize kirtan programs, First Friday Kirtans, there for a number of years. Again, always very supportive, gave us a space whenever we wanted. And then more recently, I got to work with Caitanya Prabhu a little bit for Rath Yatra. And one thing I've learned from him is definitely Rath Yatra, there's obviously, it's a huge festival, disagreements happen, but he was one of those people that just knew how to unite people and teach people how to be humble, his own example, and guide us to work with each other. And what our main goal is to do this for Lord Jagannath. There were multiple times that he would call me or I would call him, where he would explain to me what it's like, what it should be like to serve, what the mood of service is. Just two more things I want to share. My wife was telling me, so when she came, not during the Sunday feast, but she came earlier in the day at one point, and she was upstairs. This is when the prasadam used to be served on the second floor. Nowadays it's not, it's downstairs ever since we opened up the space. But there was this family who was, who took prasadam. The rule is you should wash your hands before you take more, just cleanliness. So she told this family, you should wash your hands before you take more. But Prabhu, with his example, he just gestured, hang on 1 second. He was sitting on the floor, he ran up across the hall on the second floor to go and to wash his hands and then serve them. And that's when my wife really learned, like, wow, this is truly what service is. It's not telling people what to do, but it's doing it yourself. So that was definitely one thing. The other thing is about Prashadam. I know oftentimes he loved to take, obviously I've heard many times, everyone knows how much he loves Prashadam. But oftentimes he would share that too. There were many, many times he would share that Prashadam, many sweets and all kinds of stuff. And I know he was fond of Devara, so hopefully he has taken enough, and I'm sure he'll get more in the spiritual world. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Chaitanya. It's really fascinating to hear the different perspectives. And these gatherings are so important because many times we just see one dimension of a person. And now we're seeing Caitanya, Jivan, Joel from so many different angles. I mean, for instance, how many people knew or could imagine him reggae dancing?
I can.
And that was a pickup line that he used. Amazing. I want to invite Mother Sita to come up and share a few words. She's also going to share a letter written by Caitlin, who's a long-time student and to go to the studio for Caitanya Jivan. Hare Krishna.
I'm going to read Caitlin's offering first. Chaitanya Jivan spoke fearlessly about God in a largely faithless society. He was unapologetic about what is right and wrong in a time when the only truth is our own opinion. A lot of people lost in the material ocean of sense gratification became great devotees of Krishna and yoga teachers because of his encouragement. His credibility in teaching yoga, which was always informed by his unwavering faith in Krishna Bhakti, literally gave people something to believe in. And now his seva goes on, and he is there with Guru and Krishna, and I have no doubt he is going out of his way to put in a good word for you and me up there, because that's what he was, a true well-wisher. I actually didn't even know what that was until I met him, and he didn't suffer long. He went with dignity, surrounded by devotees chanting the holy names of Krishna, up until just few months before his departure. He was running here and there, teaching 6 days a week and doing ahimsa milk distribution seva. His humility almost got the better of him, as he refused to tell anyone he was ill for so long, for fear of becoming a burden or of getting special treatment. He didn't want any part of that. He just wanted to continue his seva uninterrupted and prepared for that moment. Being a Vaishnava means spending life preparing for the moment of death, and certainly did. He was fearless until the end, eagerly awaiting his new seva, and that's how I hope we can all remember him. His teachings will live on in all of his many students' lives, and his truly well-wishing nature will be remembered by all. There's a couple more students who wrote, and just going to read that as well. Each student seems to have had their own one-on-one experience with Joel. That is only theirs to tell. It has me thinking that's the true mark of a great teacher. Somehow, like a parent loves all their children equally, but makes each feel like he or she could be the favorite. That's how Joel taught yoga, and that's how he dealt with people. He made you feel seen, like you were special. My heart is broken, but I will always have the memories of my dear friend Joel and his happy smiling face. Joel wisely once said, choose kindness. You never know what kind of day someone is having before you cross their path. Choose kindness. I could trace every single good thing in my life that has come my way since that day I met him in July over 20 years ago. Meeting him, and for sure having him as my first Bikram yoga teacher, set me on a path I couldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams. So much positivity and purpose has come my way due to him. The world has lost truly, truly great teacher. As we can see, he has touched so many hearts. He was the chair of Rath Yatra for ISKCON of Philadelphia, and he really kept all of us together. You know how in a meeting we can go from this topic to that, and then he just always kept it all together, kept us all focused and aligned to the mission and the goal. And you know, I'm praying to Jagannath, Balaram, and Subhadra to see how they can help us with his departure. I know the next Rath Yatra is going to be really tough without him. But I went to see him. He was, you know, it was a few days before he left this world. And one of the things he said, last things actually he said to me, is he would call us Ma. As most of you know, he would call most of us Ma and say, Ma, you're here, but I have nothing to offer. And this just shows his humility. That's how he was. He wasn't there ever talking to somebody to see what they can do for him. It was always what he can do for them. And it's an amazing quality. Even if a part of it I can get in my life, I know my Guru Maharaj will be very happy with me. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is one of his favorite books, it's mentioned the qualities of Vaishnava. I'm just going to read a few, and you will see why. He is very kind to everyone. He does not make anyone his enemy. He's truthful. He's equal to everyone. No one can find any fault in him. He's magnanimous. He's mild. He's always clean. He works for everyone's benefit. He's peaceful. He's always surrendered to Krishna. He's meek. He's steady. He offers respect to everyone. He does not desire any respect for himself. And it goes on and on. And I find all those in him. And no better way of describing a Vaishnava is through the scriptures. One last thing I want to say is he left. We paid our obeisances, and then we were And there was so much bliss in the air. There was so much, it was just, I don't even have words to explain how beautiful it was. To an extent that, and we kept doing kirtan for a long, long time. And then Panofa's wife, Jessica's friend, Mother Draupadi, she was there, and she said, you know, there was a phone call from the funeral company who came to pick up, you know, to take him. They said, you gave us the wrong address because, you know, I can't find it. And she's like, no, that's the right address. I'm like, no, there's a celebration going on there. So, you know, when a Vaishnava departs, it is a celebration because he goes back to Godhead. That's where we all want to go. We want to go back to Him and serve Him. And that was like, it was a perfect atmosphere. I've never seen a Vaishnava depart, and that was my first time. And it was very blissful. It brought me so many realizations, and I prayed that please Krishna help me keep all those realizations. And that was his last gift to me before he left, that he helped me grow on the spiritual path. Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu ki Jai.
Thank you, Mother Sita. We have Mukta Sangha Prabhu, who served with Caitanya Jivan very closely throughout the years.
I have known Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for more than a decade, and I have worked with him, and especially with Rath Yatra team. I have worked for several years with him. It's a big loss for our Philly community that is no more, but definitely his guidance is always there, and no one can fill his shoes. He was so humble, at the same time he was so joyful. So that is a big sign of a devotee. Devotee is always joyful, and he is one such devotee. So, in spite of he being a very senior disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, so whenever I met him, always he used to offer obeisances to me, bowing down to the floor. So it was a very embarrassing situation, because he being such a senior devotee offering obeisances to me, I always said, please don't do this, Prabhu, because I'll be very sinful to take obeisances from you. So but he always does that. It's not that I met him now, he does that, and again after some time, maybe a couple of hours, same day, again he meets me, he offers obeisances. He does that for everyone, most of you. Right, so it is a very pleasant situation for me. After that, he gave me a big hug, which comforted me. So such a humble soul. I was part of Rath Yatra for many years, and I worked with him. He always encouraged me and others. Never find faults with others. Never. Okay, always encouraged. I give up all the negative things, and he was down to earth. So one such instance which happened with me, I had some misunderstandings in Rath Yatra team, so I had to step back a little bit on my services. But I couldn't believe, one day he appeared at my doorstep. He came to my home personally. He came to my home, and he wanted to resolve those misunderstandings. So it was my strong ego that I couldn't agree upon him. So I'm very sorry, Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu, but I couldn't believe that he came to my home. So such encouragement and such humble soul he was. His heart and soul was Rath Yatra,
always looking for Rath Yatra physically and also financially. So one such meetings, in Rath Yatra meetings we had, and we were all raising funds, and we were little back on funds. So immediately he took out like at least $3,000 and put it on the table. Okay, this is my donation. Anybody can match? So it was such. He gave up everything for Rath Yatra. So I wish this Rath Yatra actually should never stop. At least to please him and Srila Prabhupada. It should grow bigger and bigger. And yeah, that's all I would say. Thank you, Chaitanya Jivan.
Thank you, Prabhu. And to the left, Shloka, you want to say a few words?
Hare Krishna. I really didn't plan on saying anything. I just wanted to be here to celebrate this first conversation that you've done. But as I sat here and listened to everyone, I thought I would. I was trying to recall my last conversation with him and the last words, which I hope were Hare Krishna from either of us. But at the end of this past Rath Yatra, another long day for everyone involved. He asked me if I wanted these old pancakes in the morning that he had. I accepted them. It was always giving. And also, I had no idea this cell was so important, so I had the honor of moving this cell at one point years ago for me and my father. I think it's that something now. I hope it's ready to board for him and take off spiritually and not materially. But I would just like to say that so many people have touched on his humility, and he really did just conduct himself, as if he were lower than the straw on the street, and he carried that and he exemplified that, and obviously he made an impression with many of us in that way. Hare Krishna.
Those from his wife, Jessica. This is something small. She wanted us to contribute something today for the program. She's in Puerto Rico. She could be here. She's going through a lot of change in her life. So our hearts definitely go out to her. Those that know her, please, shower your support and love her way as she goes through this difficult time. My dear Jivan, love of my life, you are so loved by everyone. I can one day be even half the magnificent person you were here on earth. So much charisma, care, and love for everyone. Please keep my mind back around where Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra's feet. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being my angel, guiding me to Krishna. I love you. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Jai Sita. I want to share a few things about my relationship with Caitanya Jivan. Our relationship was uncle and nephew. And it really fulfilled, for me, something. And a relationship that was very important to me. Growing up, I had a ultra-conservative, right-wing uncle who would always blow up Thanksgiving dinner with his political views, and they would wind up in arguments. One day I said to myself, I'm not coming back here, it's just too much, I'm leaving this. And at the same time, I was getting involved in Christian consciousness, so I go to other devotees' places for Thanksgiving. So it was a good break for me. And then, lo and behold, Krishna sent me an uncle who loved the right wing, who had his love for guns and his strong opinions. And I thought, oh gosh, here we are. So, and we had definitely our fair share of debates over gun rules, how to care for the poor, what would happen to a person who has an abortion, who would be the first to become a devotee, Barack Obama or Donald Trump. But deep down, we all knew it was theater, because we knew that this was really just our conditioning, the way that we looked at the world. And we both had a strong faith that the only way to really touch people's hearts and transform people's hearts is to show them that they are spirit souls, and their way back to reconnect to Krishna. And through the distribution of prasadam, which he loved to do, every week he would come, pick up samosas and take them back, cookies and take them back to his yoga studio. Through giving transcendental knowledge through his spiritual master's books, and then spreading that, we ultimately understood that this is the true way to help each other. And therefore, whatever differences we had on our, political views, they were all nullified, really. So it really just became a way that we would joke with each other. In fact, he's actually a really, really good public speaker. Here at the temple, at the yoga studio, you heard him every day. Here at the temple, he very rarely wanted to speak. We'd have to force him to say, you got to look a little better if you're going to get up in front of people and speak. You can't just kind of wear your cargo pants and your dry-rotted t-shirt. You got to kind of, dress up a little bit. So we'd buy him a corto, we'd put a corto on, and then he'd speak, and he would really captivate the whole place. Afterwards, I'd always joke with him and say, you really do have a little Barack Obama in you. My first experience with him that I can remember, I knew he was a yoga teacher, and he was always very kind, very open and kind. And I went to him, this was right in the early 2000s, I said, I want to learn yoga. And I wanted to learn yoga because I wanted to be able to sit for a long period of time and be able to chant. And I said, can you teach me? Can I come to one of your classes? And at that time, a lot of people, I think, wanted to kind of get free classes from him, so they would go to him and he said, no, you don't need to come and take this. I said, no, I want to pay. I want to come and take it. I'm going to pay for your classes. Can I come? He kept telling me, no, you can't come. I said, why? I said, I want to pay. Your business? You're turning me down? He says, no, you can't come here. And finally I said, you got to tell me why. Did I do something wrong? And he told me, he says, the environment is not really conducive for somebody who wants to be celibate. He said, you come here, and there's going to be women who are wearing very little, and they're going to be doing all different types of poses, and you're not going to be able to handle it. So I took that as, that was his honest. He was my uncle. We could joke, and at the right times, he could become very heavy and really kind of lay down the law when it was necessary. With his studio, we did different programs from the temple there. I remember we invite different yoga studios to come, and there was always some resistance. And I would hear all these things like, this Bikram guy, it's really, they shouldn't even attach the word yoga to Bikram, and this, it's really not spiritual at all. And why are we having it at this place? How can you do kirtan at this place? And other yoga studios would criticize, and we're just trying to unite people for kirtan and have people come. And I thought, well, whatever it is, that may be true. But if you're going to give devotion to somebody, you first have to have devotion. And although these different yoga studios, they may have been more traditional and had their own satsangs and kirtans, and I look and see how many devotees came or made through all these different, 40, 50, 60 yoga studios in this area, versus how many people came to Krishna through Caitanya Jivan and the path. It just goes to show you that it is him, it is the devotee that leads people to Krishna. He made a powerful impact on everybody. I had the great fortune of serving with him in Rath Yatra, and I was his assistant at the site. And it's so easy to follow a leader when you actually see them doing it themselves. I mean, he was strong. He made you know that don't consider me to be an old man, because he could lift double what we lifted. Those bicycle gates that blocked off the site, we would struggle to lift too. He'd put one arm underneath, one arm underneath, and he'd pick up four and he'd walk. I mean, he was strong as a bear. And then we would be there at the very beginning and all throughout. He was just calm the whole time, even when things looked like they were, you don't know how things were coming together. He would always be that voice of calmness. And at the very end, when the whole thing was broken down, we set up Friday and break down Saturday. It's a really quick operation. And at the very end, he would look at me and say, now we have to walk all the way, 11 o'clock on Saturday night, completely exhausted. Now we have to walk all the way around the site and pick up all the trash. And I said, it's okay, it's fine. He said, no, I don't want it to, the city's gonna charge us if we don't, we gotta get out there and we gotta collect everything. So we walk around the site together. And he would always come back with something that he would throw in his truck. And I'd say, there you go again, more junk in your trunk. Because he loved to collect little trinkets. Little family bracket here, and say, I want to need it someday. Found a screw somewhere, I can use that. Somebody's broken knife, I can sharpen this up and use it. So we'd always joke around like that. But we were there together, and we really, I'm just so thankful, to be with him during those times. Memory that will always live with me, and an inspiration that I want to continue and hope to share, through the rest of my life. I got the good news. That's the good news. It's bittersweet of his leaving, and right before he left, they needed some help down in Puerto Rico. Jacinta was there. She was really just so loving me, taking care of him, but it was a lot for her. Week after week, people would come, people would go, and I heard that he, it would be okay if I came. And that it was one of the names that he mentioned that to come down. And I felt very honored that he thought that. I said, sure, I have to come. It was last Friday. I started making plans. Got there on Saturday night, and I was with him that last full day in the house, and got a chance to be with him for several hours the day he left his body. And when I say he was strong, he was strong. He was focused. I remember kneeling down and I held his hand. And I said, I love you. And I said, the congregation loves you. Jai Shishi Gurmukha Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai. Shishi Manasharti Hari Ki Jai. I said, the congregation loves you. I said, your community loves you. And you're a person who's loved. Always know that. And I held out my thumb, and he kind of gripped my thumb. We held hands like that. And even in his condition, he was just bones. He's sunken in. he still had so much strength that he gripped my thumb, and you could tell he responded by gripping the thumb. Later on, a nice devotee, Vaishnava Prabhu, he was reading to him. I was on the other side of him, and I was holding his hand and rubbing his head. And one verse he would always quote to me. He would say, "Evam parampara praptam." And he'd always do that, just that verse. And it's a verse from the Bhagavad Gita that basically says that the message, the spiritual message, actually gets passed down through a spiritual lineage, through guru to disciple. And I said, so I quoted that verse to him, and I said, you have the whole lineage, the Vaishnava lineage, the whole parampara behind you. They're pulling you. They're supporting you. I started naming their names, one by one going back. Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Gaurkishora Swamiji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We're going back. And I got to Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, and he belted out aloud, Jai! He was alert. He was going through his transition. And that was the feeling in the room. There was not any sadness. What it was like people were coming. He was finishing a race, life's journey. He was coming to the end of it. It was a race. And he was coming down to the home stretch. And we were there to cheer him on, knowing that he was about to cross the finish line. And that was the mood in the room. We were there to support and to cheer him on and show him love. He set the mood. He set that mood. And I remember when he passed, Jaisita conveys this moment very clearly, that big picture of Krishna and Balaram, huge picture, beautiful picture of Krishna and Balaram, and right next to it a picture of Krishna and the cows. And he was staring at it, even at nighttime they cast the light up so he could see it. And Srila Prabhupada playing, we had all these holy substances there, Ganges water, Tulsi leaves, everything was there. And he would point to Krishna and Balaram. His finger was a little bit crooked. He'd point to Krishna and Balaram, he'd look like that every once in a while. Like, that's where I'm going, and they're coming. And Jaisita was taking care of him. She was standing in front of those pictures. And right before he took his last breath, he grabbed her shirt, and she was wearing a Prabhupada shirt, so he could see Prabhupada when he looked at her. And he grabbed her shirt and kind of pulled her out of the way so he could see Krishna and Balaram. And took his last breath. So it's basically saying, let me see. They're coming, let me see. And he took his last breath. I remember going into the room and offering my obeisances, and when I came up from offering obeisances, this vision popped into my mind that was very clear. It was sometimes you just see something and you say, okay, this is Krishna sending this vision. And at Rath Yatra, as mentioned, he was the parking lot attendant. He was the protector because everybody wanted to come into the parking lot and park because it was convenient. And he had to keep everybody out. And he really hated it because he'd come up to me after a while and says, I made so many offenses today. I'm such a demon. I really feel sorry. So I know that everybody that he may have yelled at or got upset, he really felt bad about it. So if you were one of them, please, he never meant it. He was just trying to do his service. But he would open up the gates and let Lord Jagannath to the site. And he had to make sure everything was clear so the carts wouldn't get stuck. And when I rose and I looked at him, the feeling that I got was that Lord Jagannath came, Srila Prabhupada came, and this time he opened up the gates for him to come through. He finished his race. He crossed the finish line. He did it with honor. He did it with dignity. I'm so proud of him. He doesn't need that from me. But he was exemplary in the way he lived and in the way he passed. He set that example. Great soul. Great soul will truly be missed. I owe a great deal of that gratitude to you, Chaitanya, Jivan, Prabhu. I'm so thankful you considered me to be your nephew. Hare Krishna. So, Jagannath Priya, I'm just saying. Any other devotees? Vishnugadar Prabhu is going to come and say a few words. Anybody else like to say anything? In just a few minutes after Vishnugadar Prabhu, one of his dear God brothers speaks. We're going to do a candle light offering. Is Vishnugadar Prabhu coming? Okay. And we have a slideshow put together for him as well. We're also want to show the slideshow now?
I can try to set up, but it'll take time.
Is there his wife coming together? So, anybody want to share anything? I'm sure, Prabhu. Please come forward. Hi.
Just because I have a moment, there's a moment where there seems to be a pause. I just wanted to share something really briefly about one of the students at the studio, and just about what people were saying about the service and how just I'm somebody who doesn't have isn't evolved spiritually or physically in yoga. And one day I was just standing there and I was sort of hyperextending my leg. So I was standing in not a good yoga pose. And he just would kind of, come by and just, tap my leg. So I would stand more upright, He would just do things like that, humbly, effortlessly, without judgment. He just, even though there are people, I felt like I wasn't, excellent at yoga, I was so low on the, in my learning process, he was able to just be there as a teacher for me in just small ways, without judgment. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Acha. For me, what Dhamacharya Prabhu said, and all the devotees are saying, I wish I could be there. Prabhu was leaving this world. Because if we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami, like Parishit Maharaj, he got the curse that after 7 days he is going to leave the body. So at that time, Sukadeva Goswami, like Parishit Maharaj decided to sit near the bank of Ganga and ready to leave the body. And he was saying, I'm not going to eat anything and I'm not going to drink anything. So when devotees are in that mood that they are ready to leave, then suddenly from all over the world, all the great sages and devotees gathered over there. And the reason for that is because they want to see how devotees leave this world. Leaving this world is a festival. They want to see that. And they know that when the devotee is going to leave this world, there will be Krishna coming out in the form of Krishna. Dhamacharya mentioned that
Prabhupada was there, Krishna Balaram was there. So I feel like I wish I could be there because that I could have seen that moment how the devotee living this world. That was very glorious. So from my personal perspective, as like many of you already shared, sometime around I think probably the mid of 2005, I was with few devotees there in the Prasham hall on the second floor. We were reading Bhagavad Gita. Like we were basically trying to understand Bhagavad Gita, we were trying to read Bhagavad Gita. So Vishnu Prabhu and Caitanya Jivan both came to the room and we offered obeisance and then we asked like, what can I do for you? They said, we have opportunity for you. What is that opportunity? We are starting Rath Yatra here in Philadelphia. Wow! Because I have never seen Rath Yatra before in my life. Like I have seen in other area, but in Philadelphia. So they say, we have a lot of opportunity, let's start. So since 2005 in the May, like I'm working with under the guidance of Vishnu Prabhu and Caitanya Prabhu, and learn lot of things we learned from as you already mentioned. I'm not doing all those things because even I'm not qualified to glorify such a great soul. But one thing I remember, just want to share and then I learned with that. One thing I would remember, that one time we are sitting down and we are discussing about Rath Yatra. So we are thinking like, oh, we can do this way, that way, we can save some money over there, we can save for this, something like that. And he said, stop. So why? We are here to spend money to spread Krishna consciousness. We are not here to save here and there. Whatever you have, spend it and just make this movement go. We don't want to hold anything with us. It's like just depend upon Krishna and just give it. So then that I will never forget. That we are here to give, not to hold with us, not to collect with us. Because the more we give, the more we gain. that's another thing. But whatever we have. Whatever he had, he was ready to give. And when I used to do distribution, he always used to come to me. I think he's the only person who used to come to me and say, like, do I owe you? Did I give you the money? I said, Prabhu, you already gave. Why you are asking? Otherwise, sometimes like when during Gita Jayanti time, you give the money and then you are done. Okay, I will give you the protocol. He come to me. Ramchandra, do I need to give something more? Did I give you my money? He never want to forget what he has to do. And one last thing that I will say, in December, just now, actually after Rath Yatra, as soon as the Rath Yatra finished, he told me, Ramcharan, can you give me the parking tickets? Because he and me, we are working from last 15 years from there. He said, can you give me the parking tickets? I said, Prabhu, we just finished Rath Yatra, we want a parking ticket for next year. He said, I want to do it right now. I said, Prabhu, what is the hurry? We can do it still 1 year. No, I want to do it right now. And then in December, he called me. I have a parking ticket now. I said, Prabhuji, what happened? You want to give me now, you bring it, and then I'll give you the date and you come. I was waiting for his call, but I never got it. That was the date, confirmation of the date. But that was his service. He wanted to do it. He just wanted to hold it like, okay, service will be pending. So that's why he's always eager to serve. He's always eager to serve. Rath Yatra was always eager to serve the devotees. He always makes sure that everyone is feeling happy. As Mukta Sankar mentioned that if you have even a small service you are doing Rath Yatra, he will appreciate you. He never misses to appreciate what your service you are doing. So I feel like it's a great honor for us that we get this association. Definitely he will be doing, wherever he is going, he will be serving Krishna, maybe this other form. But one thing that I will always miss is association. Because for devotee, our life is only based on association. If you have association, then we are in devotional service.
Otherwise, our life is without possession, there is no devotion service. So we'll miss him, and we always, my prayer to him is like, please bless me so that I can continue become a small humble servant of him, and will continue his mission. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ramchar. Thank you, Ramchar Prabhu, for sharing those memories. And I would invite Jivan Prabhu's god-brother, Vishnu Prabhu. Vishnu Prabhu is serving in the kitchen today, cooking a feast in honor of Jivan Prabhu.
So I know we're all feeling separation from Caitanya Jivan Prabhu. He was and is dear to many people throughout Philadelphia and all over the world. I wanted to just cite a couple of qualities that Caitanya Jivan Prabhu has and exhibited that helps us to remember Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna. You know, what does the name Caitanya Jivan mean?
Life force of the soul.
Life of awareness. Yeah. He told me it's actually a name of Lord Nityananda. Did you know that? It means that person whose life is Lord Caitanya. You follow? Caitanya Jivan. So one thing about Caitanya Jivan Prabhu that really helped me remember Krishna and Srila Prabhupada is, and maybe somebody already, I wasn't here, so maybe somebody mentioned it already, but almost all the time when he would meet you, what would he do? He'd offer obeisances. Back in the early days of the Hare Krishna movement, that offering obeisances was going on a lot. And, you know, here's this senior person in his 70s, and, you know, we're all junior to him, and he's constantly offering obeisances. It helps us to remember that, you know, our position is very small, very tiny. We're all aspiring servants to get the opportunity to approach and serve other Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, and in that way please Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. So that was really a constant reminder that Caitanya Jivan gave to me, which I very much appreciated. And I don't know if some devotees here know about his early background, because he forced me to attend the Rath Yatra festival in Puerto Rico regularly. So I would go there, and so we'd drive in the car, and then he'd tell me his stories of his early life. And you might not know, but prior to joining the Hare Krishna movement, he was kind of a biker type. You know that? You didn't know that. He was a biker type. And you know, God is for everybody. You know, every kind of person. And so it just so happened that he, and he's from Michigan in the Midwest, but he rambled out to San Francisco, where he happened to come across the Hare Krishna movement during the Rath Yatra festival in San Francisco. And Jayananda, who was famous for helping to develop those festivals under Prabhupada's guidance, engaged him, and that really brought him really close in understanding that, hey, this is something I really want to do. This is really important. And even though he continued to do some of his
associated activities that way. And Krishna put the clamps on him slowly, so that he had no other option to surrender to Krishna, which he did. And, first in Detroit, then he went to Miami. And then in Miami, it was, because he was a devotee who was very expert in a lot of material things. He could do a lot of stuff, tinker with all kinds of stuff. So he was attracted to a lot of he was a young guy at that time, a lot of the ladies were attracted to him. So he decided to escape that by going to India. So that's when he went to, this is like 1976, and you see that picture with Srila Prabhupada there, with Caitanya Jivan there in the Mayapur temple. So while in India, he worked at, first he was working in the Goshala, which is in Mayapur, which is where all the cows are protected and all. And while working there, his visa was about to expire. Because at that time, devotees didn't get visas for very long in India. 6 months, sometimes you could extend it to a year, but that's it. So in his mind, he was saying his visa's coming out. And he had this prayer in his mind. He said, Krishna, please keep me here in India, in Mayapur. Because if I go back to the United States, I'll be in Maya. He didn't tell that to anybody. So guess what happened? Just maybe a week later, there was an attack on the temple in Mayapur, and there was all kinds of. At that time, and I think still the government in Bengal is a communist government, so they didn't want the Hare Krishnas and religious kind of stuff there. So even though the temple was attacked, they arrested all the devotees. Well, not all of them, but many, like 30, 40 devotees were arrested. And they all went to jail. And because he had this case, he couldn't leave India. You follow? So Krishna is reciprocating. He was reciprocating with Chaitanya Jivan very nicely that way. Another really, really charming aspect of Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu that I recall is that given, you think of a person with that background as they're tough, right? You think tough people are, sometimes a little harsh to people. And Chaitanya Jivan was sometimes harsh to other people, but to devotees, to Vaishnavas, he was so kind, wasn't it? And not only that, but he very, very strictly avoided any criticism of Vaishnavas, which was really exemplary. You wouldn't hear it. And I take that as a really important lesson for me that I can imbibe from Chaitanya Jivan, among other things, so many other things, but these are two things I just wanted to highlight, because criticizing people who are trying to make spiritual progress, even though they may be at different levels, there's always kind of, and it wasn't out of naivete. Sometimes, we can say we don't have any criticism because we don't know what's going on, but he was really aware of what's going on, but he kept himself very controlled by following Lord Caitanya and Srila Prabhupada's instructions. Don't unnecessarily criticize devotees, because that hinders our advancement in spiritual life. So those are two things I wanted to share. Thank you very much.
So at this point, we want to ask everybody to stand up, and we're going to do a candle offering to Chaitanya Jivan. To your left, over by the Vyasa-san, of the spiritual master Srila Prabhupada, we have a picture of him right beneath that. So before you leave, there's some flower petals you can offer to his picture, and Srila Prabhupada. But before that, we want Mother Sangeeta is going to talk about what we're going to do right now.
So, Hare Krishna. What we had planned was, the curtains are gonna open up, and if you can just line up, from Radhashari Hari's altar to Gornikai's altar, and then it'll probably be enough for the second row. So we're gonna go from here, there, like a straight line, okay, double rows probably. And wherever you are, whatever altar you're standing in front of, we're gonna give you a vigil candle with a drip cup, so nobody gets burned. And then just offer to the deities that you're standing in front of. And there's a picture of Srila Prabhupada on each altar. So it's our custom that we offer to the deities, we offer to Srila Prabhupada's picture on the altar. And then there's a little bowl here and over there. You can place the candle after it's been offered in the sand, okay? And then afterwards we can go over to Prabhupada's seat and where Jivan's picture is and offer some petals to Srila Prabhupada and to Caitanya Jivan. Okay, and then there'll be a wonderful lunch of Jivan's favorites. Okay? Thank you.
One other part, when you get your candle, and it's lit, we want to hear, so you want to say one thing to Caitanya Jivan Prabhu. I will always remember either Caitanya Jivan Prabhu or Joel for some quality of his. You got that? Alright. So, and then you'll light the next person's candle. You'll say it, and you'll light the next person's candle.
I'll lick the light the first person, and then we'd like the person next to you, their candle. Okay? Any questions? Got it?
I'll always remember Caitanya Jivan Prabhu for say that.
Just I'll always remember Caitanya Jivan for, yeah. And then you light her candle when you're done.
And then you offer, before you offer the candle, you'll say, I always remember Caitanya Jivan Prabhu for light her candle and then offer.
I'll always remember Caitanya Jivan Prabhu for his wits and his smile. I'll always remember Caitanya Jivan Prabhu for his humor.
I'll make that for you. Do you want a cup?
Okay, Shoma will always remember Caitanya Jivan Prabhu for when he gave her bags of sweets.
Well, the next person. Okay.
I'll always remember Joel for his humor. He would say, one thing in particular, he would say, if you can't grab your elbows, grab your elbows.
I will always remember Caitanya Jivan Prabhu for his intellectual rigor.
I will always remember Jivan for telling me to buck up when times get tough.
I always remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for his humility and dedication.
I'll always remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for his humility. He would even offer obeisances to small children at times. I've seen him do that many times, actually.
I always remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for his dedicating his life for Lord Jagannath and serving all the Vaishnavas.
I remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for his kindness, humility, and dedications.
I would always remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for his dedication and humility.
I will always remember Joel for his happy, smiling face.
I will always remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for the full strength for your Rath Yatra.
Always remember Chaitanya Jivan for his humility, generosity, and willingness to spread Krishna consciousness for Prabhupada.
I will always remember Joel as a great teacher and for his friendship in the extended area.
I will always remember Joel for his commitment in loving and helping others.
I will always remember Chaitanya Jivan for his humility and dedication to Srila Prabhupada.
I will always remember his faith and faith. Yeah.
I will always remember Joel for the kindness and generosity he showed every person he met.
Always remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for his quiet spiritual strength and devotion and his love of 7-Up.
I will always remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for his principle, simple living and high thinking.
I'll always remember Joel for forgetting my name and then somewhere along the line remembering my name again.
I'll always remember Joel for his humor and kindness.
I'll always remember Joel because he would tell me whether you say you can or you can't, you're correct.
I always remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for his respect. He never passes you without saying Hare Krishna.
I'll always remember Joel for showing me what it means to be a great teacher. I'll always remember Joel for giving me the most loving hugs and cracking my back when I did it.
Always remember Joel for teaching me that yoga is for every body, including mine, and also for modeling a life of unnatural spirit. Oh, sorry.
I'll always remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for setting up the example to show us how to serve Krishna.
Just do respect duty and be humble.
will always remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for his generosity and everything he did. And one of the things he did in my entire life. Right?
चैतन्य महाप्रभु जी को याद करती हूँ, उनका महावर्ष हमेशा मेरे कानों में गूंजता है। प्रभु उनकी शांति, उनको आत्मा को शांति।
I will always remember Joe for bringing yoga in my life, and I'll be missing those great homemade energy bar, which always went to my office. I'll always remember Chaitanya Jivan for being a great friend and devotee.
Always remember Chaitanya Jivan for his selfless.
I always remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for his wonderful service at the feet of Srila Prabhupada and his sincere devotee in Hare Krishna. Always remember Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu for his seniority, his generosity, and his love for everyone in life.
Always remember Jivan when I think of the Rath Yatra. It was always fun to be around, listen great.
I always remember Jivan for his kindness.
I always remember Chaitanya Jivan, his last instruction to me is, how can I offer you?
I always remember Chaitanya Jivan who's born Ma. It really makes me feel now. And I'm very sorry I'm not to serve him.
Always remember Chaitanya Jivan for his generosity.
Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta
Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jai
Shri Krishna
Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jai
Shri
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Namaha Krishna Jadavaya Namaha Krishna Jadavaya Namaha Hare Namaha Krishna Jadavaya Namaha Hare Namaha Krishna Jadavaya Namaha Jadavaya Madhavaya Krishvaya Namaha Jadavaya Madhavaya Krishvaya Namaha Jadavaya Madhavaya Krishvaya Namaha Jadavaya Madhavaya Krishvaya Namaha Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan 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 Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita 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 Sri Advaita Sita Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Ashtotarasata Shishimar Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada.
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Iskana founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai.
Jai.
Prem se kaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai.
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadri Mayapur Dham ki jai.
Jai.
Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shramaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. His Grace Caitanya Jivan Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bo.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Hari Hari.
Jai. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste
Namaste Narasimhaya. Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Belada Daine Hiranya Kashipur Bakshaha Shila Nakalaye Ito Singha Singha Yato Yato Jamita Ton Singha Ahin Singha Hridayen Singha Nrisinghamadin Sharanam Prabhade Tava Kare Kamala Bole Nakam Adbhuta Sringam Tahira Kashipo Tanubringa Kesava Dita Nara Hari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Tava Kare Kamala Bore Nakam Adbhuta Sringam Tahiranya Kashipo Tanubringa Kesava Dita Nara Hari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Kesava Dita Nara Hari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Kesava Dita Nara Hari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Namaste Narasimhaya Namaste Narasimhaya Namaste Narasimhaya Namaste Narasimhaya.
Hare Krishna. So we're going to conclude this memorial service for Caitanya Jivan Prabhu with a slideshow that was put together. So this will be our tribute to him. I want to show it right now. And then following that, there is Prashadam. You can pick it up when you're way out. For those of you at home, you can see the same Philadelphia the YouTube channel. Chaitanya Jivan with his cows. Prashadam Chakra Bhakti Adventure. Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu and Srila Prabhupada. So
Traditional pharmacies are what? Traditional. Holistic shops can feel overwhelmed.
this happens sometimes.
With pharmacists educated in traditional.
Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu ki
Jai.
Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu ki
Jai.
Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Thank you all for coming out today and making this a celebration of Chaitanya Jivan's life. You can just see the vast amount of people, of lives and hearts that he's touched. Many aspects of his personality. I feel so grateful to each and every one of you for coming out and sharing. We plan on putting together and sending. There's more offerings that were sent in. Some of them came in very late that we didn't get a chance to read. So we plan on sending something out just with catalog and all the different writings that people wrote about Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu. And I also think in the yoga community that he's part of, they're also having a remembrance. I'm not sure, I think it's tomorrow night or Tuesday, maybe Tuesday night. If I find out the information about that, I'll post it so if anybody here wants to join that as well. He's a great soul, Mahatma, and we're all very fortunate to have met with him, served with him, laughed with him. Very grateful. Hare Krishna. So we have Prashadam for you to pick up on the way out. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we can't stay and eat all together. But Chaitanya Jivan, he was, as mentioned, not only just a lover of honoring Prashadam, but he also liked to distribute it. So he would very much want everybody here to enjoy prasadam to their fullest satisfaction, and in doing so call out for the love of Lord Caitanya and the love of Lord Nityananda. It's a good